Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
Local Sports Roundup, brought to you by Amundsen's Appliance Center, because postseason playoffs. It's like duck, goose there. But let's start off with baseball, because I know we've got some games in action tonight. And some games were in action last night, or yesterday, right? We got some regional titles from yesterday. Elk Mound, Altoona, Mondovi, St. Croix Falls, Medford. Picking up regional finals. But we got some BRC teams in action today. Carson Park including. We got Memorial versus North in a regional final. But Chi High is taking on River Falls as well. So I don't have the bracket for me. I can look it up. But would those winners play each other then? Is that how it's seeded?
Well, yeah. The way it would work right now is North and Memorial, who are going to play at Carson, you said this afternoon, they would play the winner of either top seed Spash or Wausau East, and that's in sectionals. Okay. And sectionals, semis, and sectional finals are both next Tuesday, and they are in Marshfield.
Okay.
So that would be on one half of that bracket. The other half would be the Chippewa Falls, River Falls winner would play either 2-seed Hudson or DC Everest in the other semi. And then, obviously, the two semifinal winners will play later in that day to go to state. So
with that, there's a potential, if it all works out, that let's just say like Memorial or North could face Chi High if it would be at state?
That would be in the sectional finals.
Okay.
One of those teams we just talked about, amongst all those different teams I mentioned, would go to state out of that group.
Okay.
So they can meet in the sectional finals because they're on different ends of it.
Gotcha. Okay.
The two Eau Claire schools are on the Stevens Point half, and River Falls and Chippewa Falls are on the Hudson half.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay. There's been some really close games
with
these baseball playoffs.
I think baseball might be the most, I don't say up in the air, but the sport where you can see upsets, especially in teams maybe that are a little bit lower seeded making runs, because baseball, I mean, as we know, it's just one of those sports where it's all about your pitching, and there's some teams that are really good, but they kind of lean on one pitcher, and once you get to this part of the year, you can't really go to those you can pitch that pitcher Tuesday, but then it's not like they're going to come back and pitch Wednesday. So you can use your ace on Tuesday, but then if you're a D2, 3, or 4 team, you come back on Wednesday and you're playing somebody else, that's not going to be throwing their ace either. And sometimes you just you get a good day for you or a bad day for them or whatever. And I mean, you see it a fair amount where if you look around the state, you'll see higher seeded teams that are out or lower seeded teams that are still alive. That's just kind of the nature of the beast when it comes to it. Yesterday. Altoona as a 4 seed beating St. Croix Central. I mean, that Altoona was a good team. I mean, playing in the middle border, there's familiarity there, but that's a team that can hit it. Lacrosse, they'll play Lacrosse Logan in sectionals, and that's a 6 seed beating a 2 seed Prescott. So the top 2 seeds in that Division 2 bracket, part of the Division 2 bracket, are out.
Right.
And the other half that your Medford Raiders are the only top seed left. Otherwise, it's Merrill.
And they escaped with extra innings yesterday.
Yeah, they had to come from behind to beat. I mean, they had 2 tight games. They beat Rice Lake. They had to come from behind there, and then they beat Ashland, who beat Bloomer. So that's part of the reason I really like the baseball postseason is you can kind of see that Cinderella team. Last year it was McDonald who made the run. They were 4-9 going into the postseason, then made a run to state. You can, there could be another team like that this year.
And then in Division 3 on one side of the bracket, you got number 1 Elk Mound and number 2 Mondovi. You're going to be facing each other over there too. So
the class of the Dun St. Croix, and then up top, I mean, you've got you've got Cumberland who's solid there. They're going to be hosting that. I mean, that's and they're going to be facing St. Croix Falls and Grantsburg. So I don't know if that game didn't get played because of weather, or the WIA is just kind of slow on getting that up, or they didn't get the score yet, or someone didn't put it in to give it to them. But either way, Elk Mounds, talked about it last week, just they have such a good history of baseball success there. Picking up the win over Neilsville Grand in convincing fashion. I mean, that's them and Mondovi, those are 2 top Dun St. Croix teams.
Right. Yeah. So when will we? Is it next week? Late next week? Then we will know which teams advance to states.
It'll be next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday we'll know.
Sectionals are all divisions are next Tuesday. So by next Wednesday, by the next time I'm in here. And I guess we'll see when that is, depending on what happens today.
With softball?
Yeah. So, I mean,
might as well transition into that with softball, because, today it's, depending on who wins, we'll find out who goes to state today, right? Is everything in action for
correct?
Softball
Yeah, D2,
today?
D1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are all playing their sectional championship games today.
Okay. And can't ask for better weather, so that's gonna
right.
that's gonna
right. They've had to deal with enough moving around this spring that at this point from here on out, let's just give them all good weather.
Yeah. The one that I got to imagine you're going to be at or paying attention to, Chi High, who upset number 1 seeded Spash. Now they take on number 2 seeded New Richmond. Little familiarity there,
Correct,
right?
yes. They played twice in the regular season. New Richmond beat Chippewa both those games to win the Big Rivers Championship, but they were close games, 1 win, extra innings, and right now, I mean, this is a spot that Chippewa's been in many, many times before. Mm-hmm. They were at state last in 2021, and actually this year, those seniors on the Chippewa team this year, a lot of them played as freshmen on that team, so they're not They're not averse to the spotlight, but at the same time, this is a New Richmond team that's been really good. Just as I said, they worked their way through the Big Rivers, and this was a Big Rivers I think that had a little bit more depth than maybe we've seen the last few years. With two sectional final teams here, Menominee had a really solid season. They lost to Spash. You got Rice Lake who's still around. I mean they're always going to be a threat in the postseason, and they were a potent foe in the Big Rivers in the regular season. So. The Big Rivers is guaranteed to get a team down the state, and that game is going to be in Baldwin. I can cross off Baldwin and good old Mill Pond Park as a place I've never been to cover a game, but I will be today.
Nice. And then if you want to, not far from us, Altoona is hosting Rice Lake, 1 seed versus 1 seeded Mosinee in action today too. So got that in Division 2. Where else should we go here? Division 3 Spooners in action tonight too. As a 2 seed over there.
They'll be in Bloomer to take on Prescott, who is a really strong team out of the middle border.
Yep.
Top seed there. Division 4, a game that's going to actually be at Casper Park in Chippewa, which is honestly might be the best game out of this bunch, but maybe just the most high-profile game, which would be Grantsburg and Fall Creek. Fall Creek beat McDonald on Tuesday 6-3, and these are the top 2 ranked teams in the state in the final state coaches poll of the regular season.
And they're going at each other for a spot at state.
That's sectional. When you look at the Final Four, Grantsburg beat Shell Lake. Grantsburg had to rally to beat Shell Lake. Shell Lake was up on them in the later innings, and then the bottom half you have Fall Creek beating McDonald. Those are 3 of the top 6 teams in the state rankings, and after the game. McDonald coach Rick Byer said, he said to me before, but he even said after the game, he goes, whoever comes out of the sectional is going to be in a really good spot to possibly win a state championship because they are going to be tested. There's not another section in the state that, on paper had this much power in it, this much potency with, this many good teams. So whoever's going down there, be it Grantsburg or Fall Creek is going to be in a spot where they can say, hey, We've seen a lot of good teams. We're going to see good teams at state, but we've already seen good teams on the way. There was no easy road for us to get to Madison.
Yeah, and then your Thorup is still alive today too. They're going to be in Athens, taking on Mellon.
Mellon, yes,
over there. So
Mellon with one of the great mascots in the state.
What do they got?
The Granite Diggers.
I love it when you bust out a mascot.
Yes, but Thorup picking up an 11-7 win against Athens on Tuesday. They trailed early, but made the comeback. And they'll take on Mellon today, and Thorup is a team that really a bit like Rice Lake in the Big Rivers is a beneficiary of being the smallest team in a good conference. They've played Fall Creek twice, they played McDonald twice. I mean, they even played teams like Bloomer who were almost won a regional title, and a lot of other solid teams that are bigger than them. And this is when that really comes into play. It's a team that has only 1 senior on it, a lot of sophomores, a lot of juniors, some freshmen that play. And it's been about just kind of getting better throughout the year for them, and they have. And late in the year, they had a tough loss to Cadott, and getting a chance to chat with Coach Kirk Reiner after that game, he said, it's a bummer to lose this game, but it's not necessarily a bad thing if we learn from it. And I really think they did. Offensively, they're a team that 1 through 9 can put together good at bats, and at the Division 5 level, that's big. There's no easy outs in that lineup. Defensively, they had a few miscues on Tuesday, but they worked through that, and pitcher Jasmine Stratton's had some good games here in the playoffs. So they're going to go into. I think they're going to go into that game with a lot of confidence. And I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't really know much about Mellon besides their mascot. But this time of year, and even Fall Creek coach Brad Saransky said it. Told me after the McDowell game, I asked him about being so familiar with your opponent, because that's the third time they'd played this year, and they've played a lot over the years. And what does that mean? He said, really, this time of year, just in general, like if you're if you're in softball, like who you're playing matters, but it's not like you're matching up what you do to face them. It's not like maybe football or basketball where you may tweak some things because you're playing a run heavy team or a pass heavy team or a team that likes to shoot threes. Like at this point, you are who you are, and you match up with somebody else, and you just kind of try to do what you do, and you let the chips fall where they may.
Mm-hmm. Man, a lot of good action going on right now with softball and baseball, and then you got. Well, first of all, before we get to state track and field, we got golf.
Yes, we do.
Golf, some teams, individuals qualified for states in the last couple days here, too. Memorial's going for the 4th straight year.
They're going back as a team with Hudson. Memorial won the sectional over in Hudson on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
They're back. I mean, as you mentioned, they
didn't win the BRC, but it's almost like they've almost not to down.
No, but it's just that the battle didn't end there.
Right.
You knew that it would probably be those two teams battling again for the top spot sectionals, and that's what it was.
Yeah. What I see, Chautauqua Warehouse also is going to states.
Yep, they're going to. Yeah, they're going. I mean, there's some good representation. There always is.
Yeah.
And there's some individuals that are going as well, in like D3. That it's just this area has gotten really good, I think, with golf.
Yep.
And both with the large schools, but also with the small schools too. You mentioned Chautauqua Warehouse, and they've had such a good year that you kind of could see them at some other tournaments, and they were really stacking up well. And it just when it came crunch time for them, they're golfing at up in Luck,
mm-hmm.
and they just went out and took care of business on a day where it wasn't easy to do because depending on where you were, the weather wasn't ideal. It was a bit miserable out there, and they just powered through it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So. And then where you will be tomorrow.
And Saturday. We've got state track and field, Brandon. And again, a lot of people and a lot of teams that will be well represented over there. So, we're not purposely ignoring anybody or anything if we happen to not mention, because there is a lot. There's a lot. And best of luck and congrats to everybody who's over there. But for anybody who hasn't been to this event, Brandon, I mean, you've talked about it quite a bit. Is it one of your favorite events to go to? It is.
Yeah?
It is. It takes a lot to kind of wrap your head around it because there's just so much going on. And it's always a big crowd there, especially Saturday when you've got Division 1, 2, and 3 all competing at the same time. But, it's just such a spectacle, I guess maybe is the right way to put it. Like, you've got all this stuff going on. I really like it because you have athletes from pretty much every school. Like, I think it's the sport where you have the most statewide competition because not every school has a wrestling team, but pretty much every school has a track team. And it's just so fun when you hear the different school, like when they announce, there's just the different schools and the different athletes from there, and it's so rapid fire that it's like, okay, well, this race is done. Okay, well, we're on to the next race. Like you don't have to wait long to see something really fun, and then you've got the field meets going on, the field events going on in the infield, so you can kind of see some of those from the track as well, and it's just something I really enjoy a lot. It's one of those things where it's a lot of work, but it's so much fun because with track and field, there's all like when you do what we do, like there's always a story that's going to come out of it. Like there's ones you're not going to expect. Like there's years where there's athletes I've covered that have won state titles. I didn't think there was any chance they were going to. Like it almost surprises you a little bit. Like just on that given day, those athletes really rose to the occasion and took care of business. You never know, and that's kind of the fun thing too. Is you can go in there with a plan of, okay, I got to look out for this, and this, but you never know.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, there's going to be anybody wants constant updates. Make sure you're following Brandon on Twitter.
I will be doing my very best. You got Division 1 kicking it off tomorrow with that first session, which I believe gets underway at 9:30. And then you have 2 sessions. So and then the afternoon, which I think around 3. Then you'll have Division 2 and 3 going through, and then Saturday they all go together.
Okay.
So
because that's pretty much championship Saturday, right?
Pretty much, yeah. On Saturday, everything and that is competed in is a final, and that there are finals on Friday, but not everything. Like your sprints, your shorter relays, those will all be doing prelims. But like all your field events will be finals, be it Friday or Saturday, but like, and all your distance races are, because you're not going to run 2 miles on back-to-back days.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, the best way to put it this way: any event where an athlete on the track runs 1 lap or fewer on Friday is a prelim. So your 1, your 2, your 400s, your 400, your 800, your 1600 relays.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all prelims on Friday to get to Saturday. Everything else will be a final. So your 1 mile, your 2 mile,
Gotcha.
your 4x8 relays.
Gotcha.
Those will all be finals, be it Friday and Saturday. And those are kind of split up too. So
Right.
So they're not all doing, boys and girls aren't all doing the same distance race the same day.
Mm-hmm.
And they try to split those up anyway, because a lot of times you have the same athletes running, maybe you run the 1 mile and the 2 mile, and they're not going to have you run both those in the same day.
Right.
So they're pretty smart about how that's split up.
Okay.
So there's a ton of athletes that are going down there in 4 events. I think somebody like Izzy Sontag from Cadet, who's the reigning state champion, the 400, but she's also doing the 100. She's also the top seed in the 100 relays. She's also a part of the 4x8, and then she's also in the long jump. But
Okay.
the way it works out, she's not going to be competing in all 4 events on the same day.
Okay.
It's just kind of split up with the way it is, where I think it's like 3 and 3.
Okay.
So it's not, it's not quite as taxing.
Right.
And even I've talked with some of the athletes that are doing multiple events, like how's that different from a regular meet where you may be doing 4 events, and it's a big difference. Just when you don't have to focus, or you can just focus on 1 or 2 events one day versus, okay, well, I gotta go get my long jumps in, and then I gotta go do this. And that was always the thing that was so impressed with me about now Iowa State runner Brooklyn Sandvig, who Chip was a great sprinter from the last few years, was she would be doing these sprints, and then she would also be doing the long jump. So she would be doing 4 events a day because it was all sprints. So over the course of a weekend, she would be doing 7 events.
Man.
Because she would be doing 4 on Friday,
Yeah.
or 4 on Saturday, depending on when the long jump was. But then she would be doing 3 on the other, and that was just a lot.
Yeah.
You're getting tested.
Mm-hmm.